Some trips are a little more complex than others. If you fly trips that span multiple time zones or have red eyes, you might wonder how to enter those expenses into EZPerDiem. The key point to remember when entering any trip is that you want the number of days you were gone to match the number of days you enter in EZPerDiem. Another point to keep in mind is that any trip that touches a calendar day makes that day count as a part of the trip. Let's explain using an example. Assume you are Chicago-based and have a 4-day trip that begins on January 15th. Assume the trip begins at 10 p.m. on day 1. Also assume the trip finishes at 5 a.m. on day 4. You fly to Paris, France, where you remain for 39 hours before starting the trip back home to Chicago. You finish in Chicago at 5 a.m. on January 18th. Entering this trip is actually very simple if you ignore the unneeded details which make it appear complicated. There are actually only 2 pieces of information that you need to know to properly enter this trip into EZPerDiem. The first piece of information that you need to know is that this is a 4-day trip, which you can determine because you started on January 15th and finished on January 18th. The other piece of information you need to know is where you had layovers. There is only one layover in this trip, which is Paris, France. This means the trip would get entered as follows. On January 15th, 16th, and 17th, enter the code for Paris. On January 18th, enter your domicile code, which we assume to be Chicago. It's really that simple. You do not need to concern yourself with time zone changes. You also do not need to worry about the time you started and finished. Your trip touched January 15th and January 18th, which makes it a 4-day trip. The first and last days are considered partial days. Partial days automatically get prorated by EZPerDiem according to the rules described in IRS Publication 463. The IRS says these can be prorated at 75% of a full day's value. This means you do not need to concern yourself with the time you left Paris. Since you know this is a 4-day trip, simply look to make sure that your entry into EZPerDiem reflects this as a 4-day trip. Hopefully this clarifies how to enter complicated trips in EZPerDiem.